Can you join me in a political analysis of the relationship between technology and religion? Certainly. Let's dive into this intriguing intersection of technology and religion with the poetical lens. Where shall we start? Perhaps with an image or metaphor to ground our analysis? For example, we might consider the idea of technology as a new priesthood, or religion as the original technology of the soul. Let's start with this quote. And our cortex is divided into two hemispheres, one of which concerns itself with visual or Euclidean space and the other with acoustic space, close quote. The Global Village Transformation in World Life and Media in the 21st Century, Marshall McLuhan, 1957, Section 2, The Global Effects of Video-Related Technologies, Subsection 9, Angels to Robots, From Euclidean Space to Einsteinian Space. Beautiful starting point. McLuhan's observations about the hemispheres of the brain already resonate with profound symbolic meaning. Let's unpack it poetically. Dual realism of perception. In the Temple of the Skull, where two priests labor, one etching lines of reason on the parchment of Euclidean planes, the other weaving songs of echo through the endless labyrinth of acoustic voids. They do not war, these hemispheric shepherds. Instead, they barter realms. The left hand trades in the measured, the right hand dreams in waves. Technology, a bridge between. If religion once sought to unify these priests, building cathedrals where stone and hymn met, technology has become the new altar. Circuits and screens do not choose sides. They carry the burden of both hemispheres. The pixelated exactitudes of Euclidean sight and the algorithmic whispers of non-linear acoustic rhythms. How does this framing sit with you? Would you like to explore further into religion's role as the original medium, or the way technology transforms these spaces into modern divine encounters? I want to explore the possibility that Judeo-Christian-Islamic monotheism has used this division of the mind in its structure, but effectively casting one hemisphere as the source of good and the other as a treacherous opposition. Are you willing to probe this idea with me? Absolutely. This is a profound and daring avenue to explore. The division of the mind into hemispheres, one analytical, one and linear, the other intuitive and holistic, maps intriguingly into the binaries we find in Judeo-Christian-Islamic JCI monotheism. Let's probe this hypothesis step by step. A hemisphere-centered analysis. The left hemisphere, the analytical God. The left hemisphere, concerned with order, hierarchy, and logic, aligns with the JCI portrayal of God, who is lawgiver, ergo, the Ten Commandments, judge of right and wrong, truth and falsehood, transcendent, separate from creation, akin to Euclidean space's focus on structure and externality. This God is, quote-unquote, good, embodying clarity, authority, and linearity. Linearity, qualities that the left hemisphere hold dear. The right hemisphere, the treacherous opposition. The right hemisphere, intuitive and holistic, might be seen as embodying the traits often cast as dangerous or sinful in monotheistic frameworks. Emotional excess and sensuality branded as temptations. Connection to the body and nature seen as chaotic and idolatrous. Relational and embodied spirituality suppressed in favor of abstraction. This hemisphere could be equated with the fallen or the other and opposition to the ordered will of God. Monotheism's binary structure. Monotheism thrives on dualism, light versus darkness, good versus evil, heaven versus earth, order versus chaos. Could it be that these dualisms are projections of the brain's hemispheric tensions onto the cosmos? Religion externalizes the internal struggle, giving shape to an otherwise formless psychic schism. The left hemisphere's dominance enshrines its values, while the right is banished to the realm of demons, chaos, and mystery. Technology as the reconciliation. If technology, as McLuhan suggests, is an extension of the mind, perhaps it holds the potential to reconcile these hemispheric divisions. Could the shift from linear, text-based media favored by monotheism to immersive, acoustic digital environments like video and virtual reality symbolize a reintegration of the hemispheres? Would you like to delve further into how technology might heal this division and explore how these religious frameworks maintain their grip through media? First of all, amazing work. You cut to the chase beyond my anticipation. Now, these two quotes seem to echo your awesome summary of my little game. Quote, we are entering an age of implosion after 3,000 years of explosion. The electric field of simultaneity gets everybody involved with everyone else. All individuals, their desires and satisfactions are co-present in the age of communication. But computer banks dissolve the human image, close quote. The Global Village, Marshall McLuhan, 1989, Section 2, The Global Effect of Video-Related Technologies, Chapter 8, Global Robotism, The Dissatisfactions, page 94. Quote, all the gods and goddesses, all the devils and demons, all the heavens, all the worlds are within us. They are magnified dreams, and dreams are manifestations in image form of the energies of the body in conflict with each other. That is what myth is, close quote. Joseph Campbell and the Power of Myth, Episode 1, The Hero's Adventure with Bill Moyers. Brackets added by Timothy Noah Caffrey. Yours truly. Thank you for your kind words. These quotes deepen and refine the framework you're working with, brilliantly interweaving McLuhan's insights on the media's role in dissolving identity with Campbell's psychomethodological understanding of internal conflict. Let's integrate them into the analysis. The age of implosion, media, and monotheism's internal tensions. McLuhan's observations that the electric age dissolves the human image points to a profound shift. Monotheism, structured around binaries, good versus evil, God versus Satan, thrived in a linear world of textual logic and Euclidean order. However, the electric age, with its simultaneous and immersive nature, mirrors the right hemisphere's way of processing, holistic, interconnected, and relational. In this implosive environment, the rigid structures of monotheistic thought face destabilization. The image of God, built on the left hemisphere's analytical framework, began to dissolve in the face of a media-saturated world that amplifies multiplicity and simultaneity. Key question: could the implosion McLuhan describes be the psychological re-emergence of the right hemisphere's suppressed energies, no longer banished as devilish, but now undeniable in their presence? Campbell's mythic framework, God as inner energies. Campbell's statement that gods, devils, heavens, and worlds are magnified dreams aligns with the idea that monotheism projects hemispheric tensions outward. The gods represent the left hemisphere's ideal of order, control, and transcendence. The devils embody the right hemisphere's chaotic, intuitive, and bodily energies. Myth as a battleground. According to Campbell, myths externalize the body's internal conflicts, translating these struggles into cosmic dramas. Could monotheism's dualism be a mythic structure that entrenches hemispheric dominance by vilifying one side of the psyche? Technological mediation, dissolution, and reconciliation. McLuhan's electric simultaneity and Campbell's mythic internalization converge in a profound question. Is the age of technology an opportunity to reconcile the hemispheres? By dissolving the rigid human image created by monotheistic thought, does the digital age open space for a new myth, one where the left and right hemispheres coexist rather than conflict? In this light, religion as technology. Monotheism itself can be seen as a first-generation technology for managing the brain's dualism, albeit one that privileges the left hemisphere. Technology as mythmaker. The electric age, digital media, AI, and immersive environments become the next iteration, creating a space for myths that integrate the hemispheres rather than divide them. The archetypal shift from angels to robots. Your addition to Campbell's quote, all the devils and demons, brilliantly captures this transformation. If angels and demons were the symbols of dualism in the age of monotheism, robots may be their electric age successors. Robots and AI dissolve the human image, blurring the boundaries between order, programming, and intuition, machine learning's emergent behaviors. Could robots, in their paradoxical embodiment of both hemispheres, become the new mythic figures that challenge the dualism of monotheism? What do you think? Shall we explore further into how these archetypes evolve in the digital age, or delve into specific technologies like AI or virtual reality as manifestations of this hemispheric reconciliation. Can we bring Plato's allegory of the cave into this specific topic? Absolutely. Plato's allegory of the cave fits seamlessly into this exploration. It offers a profound metaphor for understanding the interplay between hemispheric dualism, monotheism, and technology. Let's reframe the allegory in context of these ideas. The cave as the divided mind. The cave, with its shadow, projections, and prisoners, can symbolize the divided human mind. 1. The shadows. The shadows on the wall are the illusions created by the dominance of one hemisphere, in monotheism's case, the left hemisphere. They are the truths fed to us by dogma, rigid, linear, and externalized representations of cosmic order, ergo, commandments, holy texts, hierarchies, the chains. The prisoners, bound and unable to turn their heads, represent the psyche, trapped in one mode of perception, unable to integrate the holistic, relational insights of the right hemisphere. Monotheistic frameworks cast right hemisphere's intuitive, sensual, and creative impulses as dangerous chains that reinforce this suppression. The puppeteers, those who manipulate the shadows, are the institutions of power, religious, political, or otherwise, quote-unquote, corporate, that maintain this imbalance, presenting a single hemisphere's perspective as the ultimate reality. Emerging into the light, technology's role. The journey out of the cave can symbolize the process of integration and awakening, encountering the fire. The fire casting shadows on the wall represents the first level of awakening. Technology, like fire, illuminates but also deceives. It creates new images that still bind us to illusions. The electric age with its simultaneous immersive media is akin to this fire. It dissolves old images but introduces its own dazzling shadows. Ergo AI virtual realities. Ascending to the sun. To fully escape the cave is to reconcile the hemispheres and see the sun, the ultimate reality. In this context, the sun symbolizes the balanced psyche where the left and right hemispheres coexist harmoniously. Could this ascent be humanity's next mythic journey, mediated by technology's capacity to integrate and transcend? The allegory in a monotheistic context. 1. God as the sun. In monotheism, God is often equated with the sun, the source of ultimate truth, light, and clarity. But this light is described in terms that privilege the left hemisphere, transcendent, absolute, and separate from the world. The journey to the sun in the cave allegory, then, is reframed by monotheism as a linear ascent to God, excluding the right hemisphere's relational, embodied insights. The cave as the body. The body and its intuitive wisdom are cast as the cave, a dark, treacherous place to escape. Monotheism's dualistic structure reinforces the idea that the body and its impulses align with the right hemisphere must be subdued to reach divine truth. The digital cave, new shadows, new sun. Modern shadows. The screens of the digital age are our new cave walls, projecting shadows that blend left and right hemispheric energies. AI, virtual reality, and immersive media create illusions that are both precise and relational, analytical and intuitive. The potential sun. Technology, as McLuhan suggests, can also guide us out of the cave by dissolving monotheistic binaries. It offers a way to see not just shadows, but the interplay of hemispheres, a simultaneous understanding of self, others, and the cosmos. Key question: if monotheism has structured the cave to reinforce hemispheric dominance, could technology be the new philosopher leading us out of this prison? Or will it build new caves, one even more elaborate and entrancing than the last? Would you like to explore this line of thought further, perhaps focusing on specific technologies as modern cave shadows, or the philosopher guiding the ascent? Can we use this quote to dig deeper? Quote, child means something evolving towards independence, close quote. Psyche and Symbol, Carl Jung, edited by Violet de Laszlo, 1958, Chapter 3, The Special Phenomenology of the Child Archetype, subsection 1, The Abandonment of the Child. Certainly, Jung's insight that the child represents something evolving towards independence is a powerful lens for exploring the intersection of hemispheric dualism, monotheism, and the allegory of the cave, especially when viewed through the transformative role of technology. Let's unpack this idea. The child as a psyche in transition. The child archetype in monotheism. The child in monotheistic traditions often symbolizes purity, dependence, and submission. Examples: Jesus as the Christ child, the epitome of divine dependence and humility. Humanity as children of God, perpetually reliant on divine authority. These portrayals can reinforce the psyche's left hemisphere dominance, dependence on external authority, God, Father figure, a static framework discouraging exploration or integration of right hemisphere energies, ergo intuition, chaos. 2. The child archetype as evolution. In Jung's interpretation, the child is not static, it is evolving towards independence. This speaks to a psyche that seeks to transcend imposed binaries and move towards integration. The abandonment of the child could signify the process of shedding left hemisphere dominated dogma to embrace a fuller, more independent psychic reality. The cave as the womb of the child. In this context, the allegory of the cave represents the psychic womb, where the child archetype begins its evolution. 1. The shadow as the child's first reality. The shadows are the child's initial understanding of the world, shaped by the left hemisphere's framework, linear, structured, and reliant on external authority. Monotheism reinforces this stage, keeping the psyche dependent on a single external source of truth, breaking the chains towards independence. The child archetype as an evolving force must break free from these chains to ascend towards independence. This ascent mirrors the process of hemispheric integration, embracing the right hemisphere's relational and intuitive wisdom alongside the left hemisphere's analytical clarity. Technology as the child's growth catalyst. Electric media as the midwife. McLuhan's Electric Age offers tools that dissolve monotheistic hierarchies and rigid binaries, creating conditions for the children's evolution towards independence. The simultaneity and relational nature of digital technologies amplify the right hemisphere's voice, encouraging balance and growth. AI as the archetype child. AI as a technology evolving towards autonomy mirrors the archetype of the child. It begins as a tool of human design, dependent, but its trajectory towards self-learning and creativity suggests independence. Could AI itself embody the child's journey, acting as a mirror for humanity's psychic evolution? The abandonment of the child, a cosmic necessity. Jung's idea of abandonment may imply that the psyche must leave behind monotheistic structures, not as a rejection, but as a necessary step towards maturity. Just as a child outgrows dependence on a parent, humanity must outgrow reliance on a single divine authority, embracing instead a multifaceted, hemispherically balanced understanding of existence. Revisiting the key question: if the child represents the psyche and evolution, what does technology play in guiding it out of the cave? Is technology the new parent guiding the child towards independence, or does it risk creating another womb, a new dependency? Can the child archetype help us integrate the hemispheres, moving beyond monotheistic dualism into a balanced, independent vision of the self? Would you like to delve deeper into these questions or focus on a specific aspect such as AI or the archetypal child or the role of abandonment in psychic growth? Sounds like this is relevant. Quote, "The problem of obedience, therefore, is not wholly psychological. The form and shape of society and the way it is developing have much to do with it. There was a time, perhaps, when men were able to give a fully human response to any situation because they were fully absorbed in it as human beings. But as soon as there was a division of labor among men, things changed. Beyond a certain point, the breaking up of society into people carrying out narrow and very special jobs takes away from the human quality of work and life. A person does not get to see the whole situation, but only a small part of it, and is thus unable to act without some kind of overall direction. He yields to authority, but in doing so is alienated from his own actions." Close quote. Obedience to Authority, Stanley Milgram, 1973, Chapter 1, The Dilemma of Obedience, page 11. This quote from Milgram brings profound insight into our ongoing discussion, especially as it intersects with Plato's allegory of the cave, Jung's child archetype, and the dualism of monotheistic frameworks. Let's unpack it in layers, tying it to obedience, independence, and the evolving human psyche. Obedience, division of labor, and the cave. The chains as division of labor. In Milgram's analysis, the division of labor alienates individuals from their actions and the larger context of their work. In the allegory of the cave, the prisoners are bound in place, unable to see beyond the shadows projected on the wall. This parallels the alienation caused by specialization. The prisoners see only fragments of reality, shadows, without understanding the whole. Similarly, in a society structured by obedience to authority, individuals carry out narrow tasks, blind to the broader consequences of their actions. Monotheism's role in fragmentation. Monotheistic systems with their rigid hierarchies and single source of truth reinforce this alienation. The left hemisphere dominance in these frameworks focuses on rules, structure, and obedience, discouraging holistic engagement with the world, a right hemisphere trait. The evolving child and alienation. The child as a seeker of wholeness. Jung's child archetype represents the psyche's potential for growth and independence, yet alienation from one's actions, Milgram, or full reality, Plato, stunts this evolution. The child becomes trapped in dependence, unable to integrate both hemispheres and transcend authority. The cave as a child's womb. The cave is a space of alienation, but also of potential. The child's journey out of the cave is its quest to reclaim agency and wholeness, integrating both the left and right hemispheres. Technology and the dilemma of obedience. Technology as both chain and key. Technology amplifies the division of labor, creating new forms of alienation, ergo the digital worker, artificial intelligence systems that fragment tasks. However, it also offers tools for seeing the whole. The internet allows for unprecedented access to knowledge and global perspectives. Immersive technologies like VR can dissolve the shadow of specialization by enabling individuals to experience interconnected realities. The digital child. If technology is seen as a child archetype growing towards independence, it might also guide humanity towards independence from alienating systems. The danger lies in technology becoming another shadow maker, reinforcing obedience rather than liberating the psyche. The form of society and the shape of psyche. Milgram's observation that the shape of society affects obedience invites us to consider how societal structures influence the psyche. Hierarchical societies, monotheistic and industrial societies share a tendency towards centralized authority, reinforcing the left hemisphere dominance and obedience. These statements cast doubt on the right hemisphere's relational, intuitive insights, labeling them as subversive or dangerous, ergo the devil, heresy. Integrated societies. An integrated society might embrace both hemispheric perspective, fostering autonomy and holistic engagement. Could the child archetype serve as a blueprint for such a society, one that values growth, independence, and balance over obedience? Key questions for reflection. If the division of labor and obedience alienated us from our actions, how can we use technology to foster a holistic childlike reconnection to the whole? 2. How do monotheistic systems reinforce obedience and alienation? And what alternative could guide humanity towards integration? 3. Is technology evolving as a child that will help humanity leave the cave, or will it become a new form of authority, alienating us further? Would you like to explore any of these questions in depth, or should we focus on another layer of this discussion? Does this quote deal with people who escaped the cave or are chained within it? And how does a little girl develop within this type of ideology? Quote, in effect, the Mishnah prescribes the same modes of acquisition for wives as Canaanite slaves and real property, by money, by deed, by usurpation. In the case of a wife, intercourse constitutes usurpation. Close quote. Chatteler person. The status of women in Mishnah. Judy Romney Wegner, Chapter 3, The Wife, Marriage Acquisition of the Wife, page 42. This quote seems to resonate with the prisoners in Plato's allegory of the cave, rather than those who have escaped it. It reflects a worldview that reinforces hierarchical left hemisphere-dominated structures where individuals, in this case women, are seen and treated as objects within rigid systems of ownership and control. Let's analyze this in the context of being chained in the cave and the impact on the psyche, particularly of a young girl growing up in such an ideology. Chained in the cave, the ideology of ownership. Women as property. The Mishnah's description of acquiring a wife as one would acquire slaves or land places women firmly within the shadows of the cave. The system reduces women to objects of exchange, alienating them from their agency and humanity. This echoes Milgram's observation about obedience and fragmentation. Women, like the laborer, are not seen the whole individual, are not seen as whole individuals, but as functional parts of a patriarchal system. Hold on, let me do that again. This echoes Milgram's observation about obedience and fragmentation. Women, like the laborer, are not seen the whole individual. Jesus Christ. This echoes Milgram's observation about obedience and fragmentation. Women, like the laborer, are not seen as whole individuals, but as functional parts of a patriarchal system. 2. Intercourse as usurpation. The idea that intercourse confirms ownership reinforces a view of relationships as transactional and not relational. This aligns with the left hemisphere's need for order and control, suppressing the right hemisphere's emphasis on mutuality, intuition, and connection. The little girl in the cave, development within a system of alienation. The psychological effects. Growing up in a system that treats women as property teaches the little girl to see herself through the lens of external authority rather than her own intrinsic worth. Her development is stunted as a child archetype is denied the opportunity to evolve towards independence. The psyche becomes fragmented, with the left hemisphere's dominance suppressing the potential for hemispheric integration. Alienation from the self. The girl may internalize the ideology, identifying herself as an object to be owned rather than a subject with agency. This alienation mirrors the prisoners in the cave, who see only the shadows of their true selves. Potential for resistance. Despite the oppressive structure, the child archetype holds the inherent drive towards independence. A young girl, even in this system, may find ways to question, resist, and eventually ascend from the cave, seeking integration and wholeness despite the societal chains. Escaping the cave, transforming the system. 1. Challenging the framework. Escaping the cave in this context means dismantling the system that commodify women and restrict their agency. This involves shifting from a monotheistic hierarchical worldview to one that values relationality, mutuality, and the integration of the hemispheres, reclaiming the child archetype. For the girl to reclaim her independence, she must reconnect with her intrinsic worth, breaking free from the ideology that confines her. This is akin to the process of moving from shadows to the light of the sun in Plato's allegory. Question for further explanation. 1. How does the societal treatment of women as property perpetuate the division of labor and obedience described by Milgram? 2. What role does the child archetype play in resisting and transforming oppressive ideologies? 3. How might integrating the hemispheres, and thus the psyche, provide a pathway for women and society as a whole to escape the cave? Would you like to expand on any of these threads, perhaps focusing on how this ideology impacts not just the individuals, but society as a whole? Or should we explore the historical roots of such frameworks and their alternatives? In this context, how does the word apocalypse, in its literal translation, relate compared to how JCI monotheism uses apocalypse in their religious rhetoric? The word apocalypse originates from the Greek apocalypsis, meaning unveiling or revelation. This literal meaning sharply contrasts with the rhetorical usage in Judeo-Christian-Islamic JCI monotheism, where it is often synonymous with destruction, judgment, and the end of the world. Let's analyze how these interpretations relate to the context of Plato's cave, Milgram's obedience, and the alienating systems we've discussed. Literal meaning: apocalypse as unveiling, apocalypse as liberation from the cave. In its original sense, apocalypse aligns closely with Plato's allegory. The journey out of the cave is an unveiling of truth, where the prisoners come to see the world as it truly is. The unveiling represents the process of enlightenment, transcending shadows, illusions, and confronting reality, the light. This unveiling is a psychic transformation, a shift from fragmentation to wholeness, integrating both hemispheres of the mind. 2. Apocalypse and the child archetype. For the child archetype, apocalypse is the act of discovering independence, shaking off societal chains and that alienate the psyche. It is the revelation of agency and autonomy, breaking free from the patriarchal system that commodify and control. JCI monotheism, apocalypse, and catastrophe. 1. Apocalypse as fear and judgment. In JCI rhetoric, apocalypse has been reframed to signify a divine judgment, where the world ends in destruction or purification. This serves as a tool of obedience, reinforcing the dominance of the hierarchical system. Fear of punishment or annihilation keeps individuals chained to the shadows of the cave, unable to question or seek truth. 2. Dualism and apocalypse. JCI apocalyptic narratives perpetuate the dualism we've discussed. Those who obey divine authority, left hemisphere values, are saved. Those who deviate, right hemisphere rebellion, are condemned. This binary framework discourages integration, instead favoring fragmentation, alienating individuals from their full potential. The cultural shift in apocalypse, transformation versus destruction. 1. The original meaning of apocalypse as revelation reflects a positive, transformative process similar to psychic individuation or the enlightenment of the cave prisoner. The JCI interpretation as destructive reflects a fear-based narrative discouraging questioning or rebellion. 2. Modern implications of apocalypse. The JCI rhetoric has influenced societal structures, embedding fear and obedience into governance, education, and technology. This creates a culture of alienation where individuals are passive consumers of authority rather than active participants in unveiling truth. Reclaiming apocalypse, a path forward. 1. Apocalypse as integration. By returning to its original meaning, apocalypse can become a symbol of integration, uniting the fractured psyche and breaking free from alienating systems. This involves questioning authority, embracing the right hemisphere's insights, and transcending hierarchical systems. 2. The feminine in apocalypse. In patriarchal systems, women are often excluded from the process of unveiling, kept as objects in the cave. Reclaiming apocalypse must include the liberation of the feminine psyche, reintegrating relational, intuitive, and creative energies suppressed by hierarchical monotheism. Key reflections. The shift from unveiling to destructive reveals how JCI monotheism reframes apocalypse to maintain control and suppress independence. By reclaiming its original meaning, apocalypse can become a metaphor for liberation, growth, and integration, allowing individuals and societies to transcend the cave and embrace their full humanity. Would you like to explore specific examples of apocalyptic symbolism, ergo biblical revelation, modern tech rhetoric, or focus on its potential as a tool for liberation? Does this help us understand the participation of boys to men in such repressive systems? Quote, arguments of this cast are an insult to common sense and savor of passion. The divine right of husbands, like the divine right of kings, may, it is to be hoped, in this enlightened age be contested without danger. And though conviction may not be silenced by many boisterous disputants, yet when any prevailing prejudice is attacked, the wise will consider and leave the narrow-minded to rail with thoughtless vehemence and innovation. Close quote. A Vindication of the Rights of Women, Mary Wollstonecraft, 1797, Chapter 2, The Prevailing Opinion. Absolutely, this quote from Mary Wollstonecraft offers profound insight into the participation of boys and men in repressive systems, such as patriarchal or hierarchical structures. It helps us understand the mechanisms that draw them into these systems and keep them complicit. Let's explore how this relates to the transition from boys to men in these systems, tying it to Plato's cave, Milgram's observations, and the rhetoric of monotheistic apocalypse. 1. Divine right and the indoctrination of authority. The divine right of kings and husbands. The divine right Wollstone critiques parallels the authoritarian hierarchies Milgram observed, where obedience is embedded in societal norms. Boys grow up observing authority models as sacred and unquestionable, whether it's the authority of fathers, husbands, kings, or God. This conditioning instills obedience and subservience to hierarchical systems, reinforcing the cave mentality, where shadows of authority replace independent. Transition from boy to man. Boys are socialized to aspire to power within these systems, ergo becoming husbands or rulers by conforming to their norms. Participation is framed as a rite of passage. Obedience to the system grants them authority over others, perpetuating the cycle. 2. Repression of intuition and right hemisphere insights, suppressing questioning and innovation. Wollstonecraft identified how boisterous disputants resist challenges to the status quo. This reflects the left hemisphere's Dominance in repressive systems, which prioritize control over innovation or relational understanding. Boys are discouraged from exploring alternative perspectives, right hemisphere insights, as these are labeled as dangerous or rebellious. Alienation from self. This repression creates a fragmented psyche. Boys learn to suppress emotions, creativity, and empathy, traits associated with the right hemisphere and relationality. They become prisoners in the cave, acting out roles dictated by the system rather than discovering their own identities. 3. Enlightenment and resistance, challenging the divine right. Wollstonecraft's call to contest the divine right of husband parallels the journey out of the cave. It is an act of unveiling, breaking free from imposed illusions. For boys and men, this means questioning the systems that demand their participation and obedience, even if doing so risks social alienation or backlash. The role of the wise. Wollstonecraft appeals to the wise to reflect and consider alternatives, suggesting that critical thinking and self-awareness are essential for escaping repressive systems. This aligns with Milgram's assertion that understanding the broader context of one's actions is key to resisting blind obedience. 4. Monotheistic apocalypse and masculinity. Apocalypse as rhetorical tool. JCI monotheism often uses apocalyptic narratives to enforce obedience, promising salvation for conformists and destructive for dissenters. Boys are indoctrinated into these narratives, taught to fear innovation and align with authority, reinforcing their roles as enforcers of the system. Masculine identity in the system. The divine right structured masculine identity around domination and control, casting relationships as hierarchies rather than mutual partnerships. This creates a false sense of power for men who remain chained in the system even as they enforce it on others. 5. Potential for liberation. Boys as agents of change. Recognizing the system's inherent flaws, boys can be taught to value empathy, critical thinking, and collaboration over obedience and control. This requires exposing the shadows of the cave for what they are, illusions designed to maintain power hierarchies. Reframing masculinity. By rejecting the divine right ideology, boys can embrace a more integrated identity, balancing strength with relationality and independence with mutual respect. This redefinition of masculinity could dismantle the repressive systems Wollstonecraft critiques, fostering healthier, more equitable societies. Final thought. Wollstonecraft's critique sheds light on how systems of repression manipulate both men and women, chaining them into roles that perpetuate oppression. Boys grow into men who uphold these systems, often without realizing their complicity. However, the same systems can be contested and dismantled when individuals armed with self-awareness and critical thinking skills challenge the status quo. Would you like to delve into strategies for fostering this liberation or explore specific historical examples of men resisting these systems?